Hello YouTube, it's me Hazel Hallis back with my tournament bracket predictions. I've done a bracket since like 6th grade. This is the first time I've ever recorded on video my the pre-tournament, but the pre-disappointment of what's inevitably going to happen. I'm a Michigan fan, and much to my own chagrin, I'm going to pick Michigan State to win it all. As I was picking this bracket, it was completely on my own thoughts, interpretations of how the games were going to go. But as I looked at the national bracket, which I'm not usually too similar with because I pick a lot of weird upsets usually, it's actually surprisingly very similar. My final four is one team off. I have Kansas, UNC, Michigan State, and Texas. Texas being the one that was my bracket had and the national bracket didn't. I'm not happy with how it came out. Like, you never really are. You're never completely confident. It's like Vegas odds, where it's like there's a 1 in 3 chance this team's going to win, but you're not 100% confident that the team's going to win. I had Michigan State beating Kansas in the finals. I know one weakness that Michigan State has that makes me completely makes me true to myself, and so that I know that they can get knocked out at any time, is that if some team is able to control Denzel Valentine, the LeBron James basically of NCAA, it seems right now, of college basketball, because he's averaging like 20 points per game, 7 boards, 7 assists, something like that. If some team is able to control him, the rest of the team is strong, but it's not strong enough to carry itself, and I think they'll get knocked out by a good team. They could get knocked out by Virginia, or even like if Gonzaga got that far, or something like that. If a team is able to figure out how to solve that problem that Denzel Valentine creates for opposing defenses, then I think they're rather easy to stop. But obviously they're 11-1 their last 12. They're very hot, and teams have not been able to figure that out. He seems to be only getting better and better. And a team full of seniors and just guys that know how to dish the ball around, play solid defense, pound the glass, 11 plus rebound differential. I have them going all the way, and I have them facing Kansas and beating them in the finals. My final four, as I said, is Texas is in it, and I think that's just only because the West is sort of a weak region, maybe the weakest of all of them. It's got a bunch of teams that are good. Trust me, Oregon is a very hot team that can score like anybody, and the same thing with Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a little bit less hot right now. Well, they're not actually hot, but they can score. Their offense is just as much firepower as Oregon. And then Duke. Duke could come out and go to the finals, and I don't think a single person would be completely surprised. People will be surprised because they've been disappointing all season, but it's still Duke, and I feel like that's the character of this bracket. It seems like every bracket has a sort of character, and that is that there's a lot of veterans, there's a lot of good teams that are there every year that aren't placed as high, but make it difficult for you to vote against them just because they're Kentucky, they're UConn, they're Duke. Even Butler, like you never really want to go against Butler because they had those 2 years back to back where they went to the finals. They're Michigan, sort of a little bit of a superpower, not like the other teams. Well, the other teams, Indiana, even just a lot of good teams that aren't ranked usually as high, so it makes it difficult to go against them while also wanting to favor the teams that are maybe a little bit younger, that don't have as much experience in the finals, don't maybe have great solid coaching. Teams like Oregon, Oklahoma, maybe UNC a little bit, although they've had good success in the March Madness bracket before. My biggest upset probably is Wichita State. I have them going all the way to the Elite Eight. Wichita State is a team I love to watch because they seem like an NBA court. They seem like the Spurs out there. They don't have like the superstar potential that the Spurs have of knocking off the best teams. But I think this year they face 3 teams that have all lost to some bad teams that can potentially be upset. And that is, they've already beat Vanderbilt, who was a good team. They beat some good teams. I forget who they've beaten exactly, but I know they've upset some good teams. And for the first 4 games, one of the first 4 games, they beat them, which is I think a statement game. Then they have to beat Arizona, which is another team, Miami, and then Villanova, and I have them going and losing to Kansas in the Elite Eight. My biggest upset, but I think they have the number 1 scoring team in the Division I total, at 59 points per game. They give up the least amount of points, so I think that's a pretty big upset. But I think I'm pretty confident in that actually. I mean, I'm confident in the fact that Miami or Villanova or Arizona could beat them, but I'm also confident that out of all the teams that could go to the final eight, the Elite Eight that are 11 seed or higher, as in through 16 seed, that it could be Wichita State. And then for the West, which is, I said, the weakest region in my opinion, I have Duke and Texas in the Elite Eight. And I have Texas winning it merely because they've had a very tough schedule all year. They've shown that they can beat good teams, and Shaka Smart is their coach. And that's pretty much all I need to say about them, because Shaka Smart, I mean, it's in his name. He's a smart guy. He knows how to deal with teams that are good. He's like Brad Stevens. He's great at one-game elimination, in which he can drop a game plan out of thin air and just like dominate you and just throw that game plan at you, and you have no time to react because it's overpowering. He was the coach of the famous VCU team for a while, and he created that havoc defense, that full court press that I love to watch VCU, because probably not many people even know what that college, like that name stands for, Virginia Commonwealth, but I think most people who follow March Madness will have heard of VCU because they always seem to upset at least one team, as is how I predicted this year. They're going to upset Oregon State and lose to Oklahoma. Some outstanding upsets that I have predicted: Fresno State over Utah and Gonzaga over Seton Hall. They're right above and below each other on the Midwest region. I can't really explain those except for the fact that I looked into the facts and I've looked into the matchup and schedules and just how I felt it was going to go. I'm not the greatest at explaining college basketball. I haven't followed it all year, so I'm not the most knowledgeable. I kind of wish at this point that I predicted Kentucky going a little bit farther. I had them losing to UNC. I think if I had to do this all over again, if I had like one more hour, I would have had Kentucky versus West Virginia, and then West Virginia going to the Final Four. Then it would have made it a little bit more interesting. I hate having more than one seed in the Final Four, and UNC seems like a team that can be upset. So at this point, I'll say it right now that I think West Virginia would be in the Final Four, but as my official bracket goes, and as it should stand, UNC, Kansas, Texas, and Michigan State are my Final Four, with Michigan State taking it all the way. I am a Michigan fan, so it's much to my chagrin that I predict that, but I just can't deny the fact that Denzel Valentine is so strong. Valentine is so strong, and coaching wise, and just Michigan State has so much experience, and they're just well balanced, and they've won 11 of 12. Michigan State is my 2016 March Madness champion prediction, and they're upsetting Kansas. I think that whatever team came out of the Midwest, I think would have won it all, though. Virginia, another great full court press defense, and I love that kind of style because it works in March. It works when teams aren't predicting it. They it's going to come. Virginia actually isn't full court press. They have good defense, but they suffocate suffocate good offenses. They've beaten good teams, but I think Michigan State's going to beat them as well. And then whatever team comes out of the Midwest is going to win it all, whether Virginia or Michigan State. And I have Michigan State. Thanks for watching. Good luck to whatever team does end up winning. I hope it's a 16 seed. That would be so much more interesting. I'd rather have a good March, entertaining March Madness than have my bracket be correct, because it would be better games and just more fun for everybody. But I hope the best. I hope you get 100% prediction correctly. And thanks for watching. I'll try and upload more soon. And have a good day.